Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about something about breeds, what they are, why they're important, and what makes a breed and how we develop breeds. And I just want you guys to know, so I'm filming this on two different cameras for two platforms. For my YouTubers, I do have a mic on. That mic is connected to my phone for my TikTok and Instagram videos. I've tried to connect this mic to this camera and it has a weird feedback and it doesn't go well. Usually when I'm posting content, I try to post different content on all of my pages, so Instagram and TikTok will be slightly different from each other, which then they'll both be slightly different from YouTube, because I want it to be worthwhile for my followers to follow me on every single platform. So anything major that happens, so you'll find out across all platforms, but I do want to include different kinds of content, so you guys have a reason to follow me on all of them. I'm also crocheting because I need something to do with my hands while I talk about this. But this is something that I think is important enough to talk about on all of the platforms. So I'm filming it for everything all at once. So, what is a breed? How do we develop them? Why is it important? So first of all, there are actually quite a number of different definitions for a breed, but the two big ones that we're going to talk about is the definition of a breed from a breeder's perspective and then a more biological science definition. And so from a breeder's perspective, a breed is a group of animals that when they're bred together, they will breed true to a certain standard. So what that means is that if I take two golden retrievers and I breed them together, I know what I'm going to get. I know what kind of fur they're going to have. I know roughly what color their fur is going to be. I know what their faces are going to look like. And there's going to be differences. I know what size they're going to be. And there's going to be slight differences in each of these individual animals. But for the most part, you know what it's going to look like, you kind of know what it's going to act like, you kind of know what it's going to be good at, things like that. Now, if I were to, for instance, take Anor and Zephyr, they're my two mixed breeds that I got from the shelter, and I bred them together, I have no idea what I would get. I literally have no idea. Anor has some St. Bernard in her, so we could have massive puppies. We could have puppies that are teeny tiny, because Anor herself is only about 1 foot tall. Zephyr's part husky, part shepherd, maybe a little catalog in there. He's got spots on his paws. Like, I could not tell you what color they're gonna be. I don't know what they're gonna act like. I don't know what they're gonna look like. I don't know anything about these puppies, right? So Anor and Zephyr, they're not a breed. They have mixes of breeds in them, but they themselves are not a breed. They're just a mixed bag, and they will have a mixed bag, and I don't know what's gonna come out of them. As opposed to if I'd bred two German Shepherds, I know exactly what I'm gonna get. From a biological perspective, at some point in this breeding process, you will have breeds that will develop genetic markers, meaning that this is partly why we can do genetic testing on an animal and know what breeds they are, because each of these breeds have genetic markers within them that tell you what breed they are or what breed has contributed to the making of that animal. So, that's what a breed is. I really want to emphasize this, because this is why when we say doodles are not a breeder will say doodles are not a breed, because they're not. They are a certain mix that has a name, but they are not a breed. There is no standard. They don't breed true. You're going to breed a poodle, and you're going to breed a golden retriever, you're going to breed whatever else, and you're going to put them together, and you are going to get a mixed bag of puppies ranging from almost entirely looking like a poodle to almost entirely looking like whatever other dog is in there. And some might be hypoallergenic, some aren't going to be, some are going to have the poodle coat, some are going to have whatever other coat of the animal, right? They don't breed true. We don't know what it looks like. Also, because we haven't been breeding doodles long enough, they don't have the genetic markers that would separate them out. If you would run a test on them, they're going to have genetic markers for the poodle and for the other dog that was mixed with it. They're not going to have genetic markers that say, oh, this is a doodle, or a Bernedoodle, or a golden doodle, or whatever else. That's why a doodle is not a breed. And I know a lot of people will say that in kind of a rude way, like, oh, you're just a mutt, as if the purebred ones are better. It's not so much that, it's that there's a meaning that comes with being a breed that doodles don't have, right? So that's what a breed is. How do we develop breeds? And this is where things I think get really interesting. And I'm going to talk about this more from the perspective of ducks, because I know more about ducks and how breeds get developed in the duck world. So essentially, when people decided that they wanted to develop a new duck breed, usually what would happen is that somebody or a group of people will notice that there's something missing in the duck world that they want. I'm going to take my Anconas for example. So if you are in the chicken world, you know about Ancona chickens, right? That's what Ancona ducks are named after. So somebody, and I'm not saying this is exactly what happened because I don't remember off the top of my head, but somebody pretty much looked, as far as I know, they pretty much looked at these chickens and said, hey, we should have ducks that look like that. Right? And it could be as simple as that. You have a breed of animal that you're like, I really like this, but I wish it looked a little more like that. So then you have to draw up what you want this breed to be. Because again, you need it to breed true. You need all of these animals that you are trying to make into a breed to eventually breed to look like each other. So that's when you start setting down, like in the duck's case, how big is the duck? Are they a meat breed? Are they a dual purpose? Are they egg layers? Do you want the hens to be broody? Do you want the drakes to be protective of their flock? Do you want drakes that can handle a 1-to-1 ratio? Do you want drakes, like one drake that will happily service an entire flock of girls? These are all things that you would think about with the ducks. And then you and or a group of people would sit down and write all that out, and then you would look at what ducks you have available to you, and you start crossbreeding them, right? So this is when people say, oh, all breeds are really just crossbreeds. Well, yes, sort of. They started that way, because then you would take the ducks, okay, so this duck has these traits, and this breed of duck has these traits, and we're going to try crossing them. So in the Ancona's case, they have a lot of runner ducks that are in their gene pool. So that means someone took a bunch of runner ducks, and they wanted the color of the runners. And the closest way to get to that Ancona chicken coloring would probably be mixing it with a magpie. And those are two of the breeds that went into the Ancona ducks. So then they mix the runners and the magpies. And so they keep crossing all these different breeds, and it can be lots of breeds. They just keep crossing the breeds. And then when they find a duckling that is close to their breed standard, they say, okay, we're going to keep breeding this one. And they might recross that duckling back to a runner duck or back to a different breed of duck, and then take those babies, pick out which ones are closest to their breed standard, and keep breeding from there. And this is multiple generations. This is years and years. And people will get with ducks, they're going to do an entire group, and they're all trying to breed to this standard that they have an idea of what they want their new breed of duck to be like, and then they can trade. That's how they keep bloodlines going early on. So yeah, so all breeds are a mix. But they go generations and generations and generations of breeding these animals to this specific standard of what they're looking for, right? Until they get a group of ducks that's breeding true. Then we have a breed. So yes, all animals start out as mixes, but they do become something that is distinctly different from a mix, and that would be the breed after many, many, many trial and error, breeding out, breeding in, things like that. But anyway, I find all that fascinating. So, why is this important? Historically, animals used to be almost solely for work. A little bit companion, but most people didn't keep animals unless they had a reason to. That's a big part of why breeds became a thing, because people had a need, and so they bred the animals to meet that need, and they needed them to breed true, because they did not have all the resources in the world. And realistically, we still don't have all the resources in the world to be able to take care of animals that aren't breeding true. So a lot of the reasons that we had breeds was for animals to have jobs. That's why originally breeding true was important, because people bred these animals for a purpose and a job, even if that was just to be a cute companion, and they needed these animals to breed true to that purpose. Nowadays, we breed true for similar reasons. I mean, there's definitely always working dogs that we need them to breed true for working reasons, but we also breed true for things like we want to maintain the traditions and the historicity of breeds of animals that had working roots and are very ancient breeds and things like that. Again, even though a lot of animals don't necessarily have the same jobs and the same rigor of the jobs that they had, a lot of them are companions, we still need them to breed true for companion personalities and characteristics. A lot of it's preservation. I'm a huge fan of preservation breeding, where we breed these animals as close to their original purpose as possible, even if we're not necessarily actively using them for that purpose. We find similar things that we breed for, right? So instead of, maybe someone's not really herding with their dog, but you see border collies in agility and they absolutely dominate, right? So we're taking these characteristics from the herding lineage, and even though we don't necessarily need the herding anymore, we're still breeding to that preservation and then using those skills elsewhere for dog sports and other things. There's something to be said for preserving the lineage of the dogs, or of all the breeds, ducks, dogs, horses, right? So that's a reason why having a breed and breeding true are important. There's also keeping stud books open and keeping genetics diverse. That's very important in all breeding, and the more breeds that we have that die out and get muddled, eventually we have less diversity. And I know that seems counterintuitive, so I think that kind of answers why breeding true or breeding actual breeds as opposed to just having random mixed breeds is important for the purposes of predictability in what we're breeding, for the preservation of the working lines and historicity of the animals, to preserve gene diversity throughout all of these animals. And that doesn't mean that we can't develop new breeds. If someone really wants to develop the Doodle into a breed, you could get a number of people together, and it would be decades. Okay, it would be decades before it could become a breed, before it's breeding true or has any sort of genetic markers. But people could do it. We could do it. We absolutely could. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I hope you enjoyed it. There's more topics about breeding that I want to cover. So now that breeding season for the ducks is over, I'm going to be talking about a lot more about breeding in general, about how I pick partners for my ducks, some partners that I would love to pair Birdie with later on, just a lot of other topics that I want to cover. Okay, so if you have any questions, comments, concerns, corrections, let me know in the comments. I'm sure you guys will. That is what the internet is good at.